おはようございます。皆様、本日は IVF と代理出産の基本と実践ポイントのオンラインセミナーにご参加いただき、誠にありがとうございます。今回のオンラインセミナーは、アメリカでの体外受精 IVF や代理出産について、妊娠までの流れや実際の進め方を中心に、わかりやすくご紹介する機会として企画させていただきました。私、本日のホストを務めさせていただきます、ミラクルエンジェルスリプロダクティブグループの田中と申します。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。ここで簡単に私たちミラクルエンジェルスリプロダクティブグループについて紹介させていただきます。当社はアメリカ・カリフォルニア州に本社を構える ACRC グローバルの子会社で生殖補助医療に特化したコンサルティングサービスを提供しております。卵子、精子提供、遺伝子検査、体外受精、そして代理出産などのサポートを行っております。アメリカで家族を迎えるという道に興味はあるけれど、具体的なプロセスや医療の違い、不安な点が多いという方もいらっしゃると思います。今回はそういった疑問や不安に少しでもお答えできるような内容をお届けしてまいります。お話しいただくのはアメリカ HRC フェタリティのブースタンファー先生です。数多くの日本のご依頼者様の治療を担当されてきた経験をもとに、実際の流れやポイントを現場の視点からお話しいただきたいと思います。Dr. Bustanford, thank you for joining us today. May I introduce you to our audience?
Thank you, Shuko. Thank you.
Okay. ブースタンファー先生をご紹介させていただきます。ロバート・ブースタンファー医師は、カリフォルニアにあります HRC フェタリティに所属する生殖内分泌及び産婦人科の専門医で、不妊治療の分野で高く評価されている経験裕福な先生です。アメリカの生殖医療や産婦人科の主要な専門学会にも所属し、国際的にもご活躍されています。博士号は UCLA、カリフォルニア大学ロサンゼルス校で取得され、医学博士号は USC 南カリフォルニア大学で取得。産婦人科の研修と生殖内分泌、不妊症のフェローシップも同じく南カリフォルニア大学で修了されています。長年カリフォルニアを拠点に不妊治療を最前線で活躍されており、アメリカの大手メディアにもたびたび取り上げるなど、高い信頼を得ているお医者様でございます。本日は皆様の疑問や安心不安に寄り添いながら、最新の情報をわかりやすくお話しいただきます。それでは、早速先生にお話を伺っていきたいと思います。本日は私たちから事前に用意させていただきました質問を通して、アメリカでの IVF や代理出産について注意点、実際の進め方などを詳しく聞いてまいります。Dr. Bustanford, if it's all right with you, I'd like to start by asking you a few questions that we have already prepared. Is that okay?
Shuko, it'd be my pleasure to help. Please proceed.
Okay. それでは1問目から、始めさせていただきます。Okay, the first question is, what medical records should Japanese intended parents prepare if they want to pursue IVF in the US? And what questions should they ask when they first come contacting you?
Shuko, it's very important for intended parents in Japan to collect their basic tests that their OBGYN or their fertility doctor has already conducted. If they haven't conducted these tests, they should conduct the tests before seeking my opinion, because it'll make the consultation a lot more productive. I generally like to see all the medical records, including ultrasound findings, the follicle count, the hormone levels, such as FSH, AMH, estradiol, thyroid levels, sperm testing, and also genetics. That's really a good starting point for the consultation.
Thank you. I would like to go to the next question.
Yes, please shoot.
How long does the IVF process take in US from initial evaluation to egg retrieval? What are the key steps involved?
Well, the key steps really are the stimulation process. And that process is when the female partner injects herself with very specific gonadotropin hormones for about 8 to 10 days. And after approximately 8 to 10 days, we do several ultrasounds to make sure she's ready for the egg retrieval process. And after that, she undergoes anesthesia and the eggs are harvested. Generally speaking, from the time of the consultation to the time of the procedure, it shouldn't be more than a month or two. We like to coordinate the cycle with some birth control pills so that an easy and convenient and low stress travel plan can be done, and then the patients can arrive in Los Angeles.
Now, the next question, I'd like to ask about traveling for IVF treatment. When a Japanese intended mother travels to the US for egg retrieval, considering that a lot of women in Japan is very busy, what is the minimum number of days she typically needs to stay in the US?
It's a great question. We've been treating patients internationally for 20, 25 years. And for the patients who don't want to have, say, an extended holiday here in Los Angeles, they can start the treatment in Tokyo or anywhere in Japan with a local fertility doctor under our supervision and our direction. And then they could start their stimulation and do their first ultrasound after 4 or 5 days, and then take directions of what to do for the next 2 days as they travel to Los Angeles, and then really be here for something like 5 to 7 days for the end and typically the most critical part.
That would give a Japanese woman an option in U.S. with traveling such a short time.
Yes.
Now, I would like to ask about the age of the preferable for egg retrieval. What is a general considered for optimal age for women to undergo egg retrieval? What challenges might older women face?
Well, also a very great question. I mean, I would say that the population of Japanese women and the population of women in Los Angeles are very similar. They're working women. They're all educated. And they've also started thinking about having child family planning much later in life. Ideally, we'd love to have women under the age of 35, but that's not very typical among our patients in Los Angeles or even among our patients that are traveling from Japan. Between 35 and 40, you will see some decrease in the number of eggs and embryos that are chromosomally healthy. So that sometimes you see slightly lower pregnancy rates between 35 and 40. And then between 41 and 45, you will see a much higher number of eggs and embryos having chromosomal abnormalities. And therefore, the success rates can really diminish.
So earlier the better. For egg retrieval, I understand that. But my question is, if somebody is not ready for pregnancy, is it possible to freeze eggs or sperm in advance? And in what situations would you recommend to do so?
Well, with, egg freezing and oocyte cryopreservation techniques becoming really substantially better in the last 10, 15 years, most women that are of reproductive age between 25 to, 40 and early 40s, they should really consider freezing their eggs if they're wanting to postpone childhood. The other situation is women who are about to have chemotherapy or some kind of surgery that could impair their ability to get pregnant. They should freeze their eggs. And freezing sperm, generally, we're only doing in men who are about to have chemotherapy or radiation. So the men's fertility doesn't really diminish as much as they become older. So we really are focusing on the female partners freezing their eggs as soon as possible.
Our next question is it currently feasible to ship frozen eggs or sperm to Japan to the US for IVF? What are the common procedures and risks involved in that process?
So, one of the most advanced freezing systems in the world, known as the Kitazato system, was developed in Japan, which is one of the best oocyte egg freezing systems. So many of us in the US have embraced that freezing system, especially here in Los Angeles many years ago. So we are using very similar, if not the exact same, cryopreservation techniques that many of the Tokyo clinics and the other Japanese clinics are using. So generally speaking, it's very safe to transport eggs and sperm in liquid nitrogen tanks across the ocean into Los Angeles. It's very rare that there will be any kind of tank failure or any issues that could result in the loss of reproductive tissue. It's possible, but historically, we have seen that it's been very safe and effective throughout the years.
Okay, I would like to ask the next question.
Yes.
If intended parents are considering using surrogate, at what stage of the IVF process is it typical to begin matching with a surrogate? Okay, if you could answer our question. Thank you.
So most of the time in the US, many of the surrogates are very eager to get started. And the first thing they're going to ask the parents in the IVF clinic are, do you have embryos that have already been created and chromosomally tested and normal? So once we have the patient come and do IVF, we've done the PGT-A chromosomal testing, and those embryos are frozen and all the proper FDA infectious disease testing has been done, that's when we're matching with the surrogate.
Okay, next question is, after a successful surrogate match, what steps usually occur before embryo transfer, and how long does this stage typically take?
So, very good question. This can take a little bit of time, but after the agency has provided options for the surrogate and the surrogate is screened by the high-risk obstetrician to make sure there's a low chance of any complications during birth, they are then screened by me or the fertility doctor to make sure the uterus is acceptable for the embryos and all of the infectious disease tests and legal documents are done. Once we take care of that, which should take a few weeks to a month, legal contracts are drawn up between the intended parents and the surrogate. And once they're signed, we can begin.
Our next question is there any legal or medical procedures that Japanese intended parents should be aware of? Any restrictions or any kind of sort, because we are international patients?
It's a really good question. Here in California, we have been doing surrogacy for over 30 years. It was one of the first states that surrogacy became available because we were one of the first states that went through all the legal paperwork with the government to do it. So gestational surrogacy is really open to all intended parents in Japan for almost any indication. So they meet with the doctor, we make the diagnosis, and once these patients have signed their legal documents and that baby is born, there's no legal issues that I'm aware of that they need to be worried about.
It's really good. America is open for internationally and for a lot of treatments. But again, the question go back to the distance and the time difference and take traveling time. And that is one of the things the Japanese IP is stepping a next step going to the States for IVF or next treatment.
Yes.
So do Japanese intended parents need to travel to U.S. in person? At which stage in their presence is required, and which part can they be handled remotely? Dr. Bruce Stanford, could you please answer my question? Thank you.
Yes. So, we do have a lot of patients who will come to the U.S. not just for the treatment, but they do turn it into a vacation. There's a very large Japantown here in Los Angeles. Everybody wants to come and see the Dodgers play and see the Crown Prince of Japan play here in Los Angeles. He's the most amazing player. But if you don't want to see him play and come on vacation, you can create the embryos in Japan and then make sure they had the proper PGT testing. And then we can arrange with the Japanese clinic to do all the FDA testing and then send the embryos to the US. And then we can complete the process by using a surrogate.
Can I ask you a question? In
Sure.
other words, if they don't want to take the vacation and go watch Dodgers game, if they can send the embryos,
Yes.
They make the embryo in Japan,
Yes.
and then send it to the U.S. And
Yes.
if the surrogates carry it to the full term, then Japanese IP can stay in Japan and send love and wait till the baby is born, and
Yes.
that's the time they come to the States.
Yes.
また、本日ご参加されている方からご質問をいただいていますので、ここで一つ伺いたいと思います。I have a question from our audience. It's not in our panel, but
Okay.
is it okay to ask you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. If you are diagnosed with HPV, can she still retrieve eggs for future use or use that egg for surrogacy journey?
Yes. HPV is perfectly safe, and it's very common, and we could easily use those embryos for transfer to a gestational surrogate. Not a problem at all.
Okay. So they can freeze it for future use for their own, and they can use it for surrogate also.
Absolutely. In the United States, it's not a problem at all.
Okay. Because we have a little bit more time, can I ask you a couple more questions?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. How many embryos should IPs have in order to have a healthy baby on their own or using a surrogate?
Well, ideally, if there's at least 2 or 3 chromosomally normal embryos, that is nice to have in case implantation doesn't happen with the first transfer, or if there's an early miscarriage. Generally speaking, a chromosomally normal embryo has about a 60-70% live birth rate. So having, at least 2 would be very helpful.
Oh, only 2. I thought you need like a 10 or 20.
No, 2 to 3 chromosomally tested normal embryos is usually pretty good prognosis.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
At what point should IPs start to think about surrogacy or donor? After like how many cycles? Because if you want to go on and on by yourself, you can start from like age 30 and giving cycles for like 10 years and not having a good outcome. So what would be your
I think that having a consultation with a U.S. fertility doctor that's very experienced and has treated international patients, you should definitely discuss a consultation maybe after 2 to 3 failed retrievals, because there may be other options such as egg donation and surrogacy here in the United States that the Japanese doctor may not want to discuss with the intended parent, but we have it as a very effective tool. And instead of the patient becoming emotionally and physically and psychologically and financially drained doing years of treatment and multiple IVF cycles, at least getting the opinion of a US doctor would be beneficial.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And one last question from me.
Sure.
How long do you have like the consultation time? How long do you talk with your patients?
Generally speaking, if I get all the proper medical records, consultation times are approximately 20 to 30 minutes by Zoom. And then if they're in the United States, I would usually do a physical exam and an ultrasound. But we're getting most of the information ahead of time. So we're able to do our consultations in about 20, 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for all the questions. And I just have one last question that we have discussed before. Do you have any advice for families who are new to the US IVF or surrogacy process to help them feel more confident and prepared as they begin this journey? And let me ask that in Japanese again because I asked you first.
Okay. So the best advice I could give is pair up with a very reputable IVF doctor and IVF clinic so that they could be thorough, but also compassionate and detail-oriented and caring enough to give you all your real options and not just do IVF again and again and again.
本日は、貴重なお時間ありがとうございました。また皆様のお忙しいところご参加いただき誠にありがとうございます。赤ちゃんを迎えることのお手伝いを少しでもできたら幸いです。ご質問などございましたらご遠慮なく画面にあります連絡先までご連絡をお願いいたします。お一人一人に歩み寄り赤ちゃんとの素敵な生活へのサポートをさせてくださいませ。